So Paolo Banchero, as I wrote in the outline, is hashtag that dude. That's been established 10 times over. And
Yeah.
so along those lines, I have there's a three-prong question or segment, whatever you want to call it, on Banchero. Let's start
Okay.
here. What impressed you or surprised you the most about him as a rookie?
I think what impressed me the most and what I've been yearning for in the Orlando Magic in this NBA game that we have nowadays is getting to the line, man. He's getting to the charity stripe. 7.4 free throw attempts per game. That's 11th in the league for a rookie. And Magic fans, we haven't had a guy like that gets those free buckets on a regular nightly basis. And in the NBA, that wins you basketball games. So it may not be the prettiest all the time, but man, is it good to have a guy like that gets the calls, that draws the contact, that gets to the line. It was just a breath of fresh air. I was ecstatic to have that type of dude. I mean, you can't really matching LeBron, 40, 20-point games as a rookie, matching this guy called Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, only rookie to achieve 600 points, 200 rebounds, 120 assists in his first 31 games. The guy's a Swiss Army knife. He does it all. The thing that I love most about him is he's a humble superstar, at least right now. He always says the right thing. He gets excited about getting his teammates involved. And I get excited about having this guy in a Magic uniform, hopefully for a very long time. I'm not even going to mention the possibility of a team on the West Coast that, in the Pacific Northwest region, that's not happening. It doesn't exist. I'm not going to think about it.
I mean, like, and that's even stuff like that. If people start talking about someone entering their sophomore year leaving, well, that's like
On. Yeah.
we gotta pump the brakes on that one. The free throw stuff is incredible, and just like when you look at the rookies who average like 25 plus points and I think it was 10 plus free throws per 100 possessions, it's like Paolo and a bunch of dudes who are going to make the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And so that's a pretty big harbinger. I was actually pretty impressed with his defense. I think he's a lot more. I don't know what the word would be. I don't want to throw switchable out there. He's a lot more versatile and much less of a liability, not just by what I was expecting from Paolo Banchero, what I knew about his standards, but just like from a rookie's standards. And to have someone positionally who I think when you watch him, okay, like they're going to have to move him around a little bit. The fact that he can be moved around and that you can envision scenarios because he's also a good enough rebounder, he's strong, where they really want to get to additional small ball 5 looks where it won't be Joe Ingles at the 5, as we clarified earlier. It'll be Paolo Banchero at the 5. Like, you can do that. And so I think he gives you a lot more optionality on the defensive end than people credit. And even if you're going to play him lower, stash him on a lower usage wing, again, just his rebounding, there's going to be the benefit of that. So even if you're going to try and hide him on somebody, you're still doing yourself a service by, hey, we're going to ensure that once that shot goes up, he'll be someone who can end the possession. And there's value in that too.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I mean, all the shit that was talked about him was about his defense coming in. I mean, there was also, let me get the conspiracy shades out one more time. The sweat thing, there was like he sweats too much story. I don't know. There was that. And there was that he can't play defense. But you're right. He showed that he's extremely switchable. And FIBA World Cup, rest in peace, USA team just lost to the Germans. We'll talk about Franz Wagner in a moment. Not yet, though. He played the 5. Like there were very few minutes that he played the Orlando Magic at the 5. There on a smaller 5, it worked in FIBA. It worked at times. I mean, he destroyed New Zealand, those poor guys. But he showed that he's also can switch out onto smaller guards. And you're right, he can handle himself, and that's huge in a Coach Mosley defense and an Orlando Magic team that loves their length. And Coach Mosley loved playing the zone and switching on defense. So those are the two things he really loved to do. All that switchability, and Paolo Banchero can do that. So that's great to have in your superstar.
We might have just covered it, but what's like the biggest part of the Paolo experience that doesn't get enough national attention? I think his free throws received plenty of national attention this past year.
I think his passing, really, like 3.7 assists doesn't necessarily jump off the screen, but for a guy who's an elite scorer as well, I mean, some of the passes that he made were just spectacular. I mean, you didn't see him from a guy that size, and his handle, he's like a freaking ballerina out there at 6'10", where he's coming down the lane. He's 200 50-ish pounds. I mean, Doris Burke goes crazy for the guy's frame, and add on to that the soft touch and the court vision, and the fact that I said earlier that he loves that. Like, he really genuinely enjoys it. He's not just out there to get his own. He wants to pass the ball. He wants to get guys involved. And I think as he continues to grow as a scorer, we're going to see him, managing double teams even better, hitting guys. And I can see that number ticking up a little bit as he continues on. And I'm just, it's great to see in your superstar that he loves to distribute that much. He's not a selfish eye first guy. And you can see that in the way that he passes the ball.
Yeah, I think he's got to get quicker passing out of some of the double teams, but he was making complicated passes in those situations. And I think the bigger thing too is if they can get to a point where they're consistently surrounding him with more spacing, he's going to devastate guys running off the baseline or even just finding those corner 3-point shooters. And that's what I'm really excited for. And so I would think, look, right now, Markelle Fultz is their best facilitator.
Yes.
We jump ahead. Anthony Black is still on this team. Markelle Fultz is still on this team in a couple of years. I fully expect Paolo Banchero might become their best passer. I'm so high on his passing that it's probably not even funny.
Wow.
I'm so high on it that it's probably erroneous, that it's probably a bad omen for his future. And some of the passes he tried, and like I said, the reaction time in some of those situations, it's going to get quicker. He was a rookie.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the part of his game that I'm surprised we haven't heard more about when even the spotlight's on the Magic, is just because this is someone who I think can drive your entire offense. And they didn't even really put him in that situation as much as you would think. Like Franz Wagner ran more pick and rolls last year per game than Paolo Banchero did. And
really?
So this is someone who is like, there's room for him to do even more as a playmaker. And I think he's going to eat up that room at some point because he's that good.
From your lips to God's ears, sir. I'm gonna have to pass these shades over to you. I don't know. He's gonna be the best over Markelle. See, I'm just a Markelle Fultz stan. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that was a little much.
What's the one thing about him in year 2, whether it's something he needs to improve upon or you want to see him add, that you're going to be watching most closely for?
I mean, it's probably a little bit cliche, but his efficiency. He's just got to get a little bit better with his shot selection. Sometimes he was forcing shots when, as you said, he could have been passing out, forcing through a double team, things like that. But 46.5% effective field goal percentage, that was bottom 10% in the league for forwards. As a rookie, hey, that's okay. But if you're really going to make that superstar jump, that needs to, he needs to get to his spots more effectively. He loves running the horn. We love running the horn set with him so that he can operate from the elbow, especially the right elbow. So I expect him to be able to get to those spots more effectively, and I want to see that tick up. What about you? What are you most excited for in second year?
I think so. I'll be watching his passing more, and I'm going to be looking at the volume of what's he doing as an initiator. It's not just about pick and rolls, but I want to see that go up. And then the other thing, I mean, it's pretty basic, but I think it's a pretty big deal, is I want to see the 3-point attempts. Like, those got to come up. I don't even necessarily, I care about the percentage, don't get me wrong, but 4.2 per 36 minutes is just not enough right now. And he went through pockets of time where he shot well enough from 3 for long enough that it's, hey, just jack up that volume. And if you're at 32%, we'll live with it, because that puts pressure on defenses in ways I still don't think people fully appreciate. And I always come back to, he's a better shooter now, but he's still not great. Marcus Smart, he's reined in his off the dribble attempts. But even when he was taking too many of those, the fact that he's willing to take 6, 7+ 3-pointers per 36 minutes, that puts pressure on the way defenses scramble. And if you can hit them, he had one good 3-point shooting season, I think, Marcus Smart did. If you look at the difference between how defenses guard him versus how they'll guard Dylan Brooks or someone from beyond the arc, or even Markelle Fultz right now, it can be night and day. And so I just want to see that number come up and it's a cliche, but I think in his case, every other part of his game is already so dynamic, and the skeleton of effectiveness is just there, that it's okay to say, just get those 3-point attempts up.
Right. It only takes one. You're absolutely right. Just make the defenses think about it. And I guess the other thing I really want to see from him is the free throw percentage come up a little bit. I mean, 73%. I did the math before we got on here. He left, assuming he would have shot 100% from the line, which is absurd, he left 134 points out there. I want to see him. Like, let's get that up, Paulo. We just appraised you for how fantastic you are at getting to the line, how historic you are at getting to the line, in fact. But if you're only making 70% of those attempts, it doesn't help the team as much as it could. So that's really what I'm hoping for as well in his second year.
It would be nice just from one area, whether it's the free throw line, his finishing at the rim, which I think was largely fine. There's 3-point shooting, mid-range, whatever. I just want him to have like elite efficiency from what it's like, Paolo shot 87% at the foul line, or Paolo shot 70% at the rim, or Paolo shot like, I don't know, like 49% on like push shots or something. Like, I just want him to have one of those. This like one area where you point to like, okay, like just lights out in that area.
And that will get him to, 25, 26 points a game. If he gets there in one of those areas, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if he's hitting like, we should have done the math on if he shot like 83 to 85% at the foul line, which is high, but it's not unreasonable.
No.
Like that would be something that could be a complete game changer. On top of, you have to assume he's going to improve his efficiency just from areas of the floor in general. Even if it's not elite, it's he shot better than 30% from 3, and he shot better than 38% between 3 and 10 feet or whatever it was last season. So still incredibly high on him. And that's just, I don't think he gets forgotten about, but like when you see a lot of conversations about, I want to start a team with a player 23 and under or 25 and under, he invariably always appears too low. I think including on our list that we made earlier this summer, I had him, I think it was number 5 on my big board, and I was too much of a coward to pick him until it was like 7 or 8 or something. And I walked away, I was like, yeah, even that was probably too low. And Magic fans were actually pretty mad about it.
You bastard, Dan. Now, I'm interested on your take on this, because Magic fans, we've been talking a little bit about this. Him playing with Team USA this summer, we're talking about the areas that we want him to improve, and yet he's been used as a 5. And there was a little bit of a civil war within the Orlando Magic community about should he play for Italy and have the team around him where he gets to just be the guy and get going at that, or with Team USA where we just saw he averaged 9 points. Thank goodness he was backing up Triple J, who gets in foul trouble like no one I've ever seen. So he got some decent minutes, but again, it was at the 5. He was an ancillary piece. He was a second thought. He was our third thought on offense. Do you think that? How do you perceive that move from him? And is there any impact for you? Are you worried about that at all?
So here's my blunt take. I cannot bring myself to care about what happens for these players in FIBA.
Okay,
and
that's fair.
I'll point to, look at some of the icons, or better yet, remember Olympics Melo? That was never gonna. They tried it a little bit as he got older at the NBA. It never worked that way. You're just dealing with such a scale of talent on Team USA, even when they're not throwing out their A++ squad. I just can't bring myself to care. I would like to see him play more 5, but the fact that he played 5 for two, like, I read more into what I'm going to see in Summer League than what I'm going to see from Team USA, just because the collection of star talent, even on the worst team, is such that it makes Brandon Ingram, Brandon Ingram can't be a complimentary player, always needs to have the ball in his hands. It's like, all right, but like, this is a pretty specific circumstance where he's playing off all these other dudes, and Team USA doesn't really even have like a true big, aside from where they have Walker, Kessler, Paolo, and Triple J, who's not, he's like really kind of a 4 at this point. So I can't bring myself to have an opinion on it. He's where he wanted to be, and I think that's all that matters. Would you expect the Magic, though, to maybe test out more Paolo at the 5 this year?
That's been talked a lot and debated. After the New Zealand game, we're like, yeah, play him with the 5, sure. But I don't really see it, to be honest with you, Dan. Like, very specific circumstances. Am I confident that he could bang with like a Chet Holmgren style 5? Sure. But in terms of if they're trotting out even like a guy like Thomas Bryant, who's not a great center or anything, just a center, a 7-foot center, Paolo's going to struggle with that. I mean, it's not going to be easy unless you're putting him, unless he's not really playing the defensive 5 and he's playing next to like Jonathan Isaac, who playing against next Jonathan Isaac, that's a whole other, that's a hilarity I should put on the glasses.
Jonathan Isaac was playing? Wow.
I know, exactly.